Hello everyone and welcome back to Bhanzu classes. So I hope all of you are super duper excited to start the new topic with me today in the chapter Algebraic Expressions. So what are we going to talk about in today's session is terms of an expression. So if you remember, in the previous session we had talked about variables and constants forming expressions in one variable and two variables. So since you all are aware now what's an expression, let's see the different terms of an expression. And in terms, we have factors of a term and also its coefficients. And then we are going to see the two different types of terms like terms and unlike terms. So let's talk about these topics in detail in the session today. So starting with terms of an expression. How do we get to know about the terms of an expression? How many terms are there in an expression? Let's have a look at it. So starting with an expression is formed by term 1, term 2, like this it can be formed by n number of terms. So we can have n number of terms in an expression. So expressions are formed by terms and terms are added. They are always and always added to form an expression. Got it everyone? So how do we get an expression? By adding different terms. Now what all do we have in terms? How does an expression look like? Here is it. So here we have a tree diagram for you where we have the expression and then we are going to see that how the expression get its terms and how the terms is made up of its factors. So here the expression is 4x square minus 3xy. So it's made up of two different terms. What are they? 4x square and minus 3xy. So the important thing to notice over here is minus is carried with the term. You cannot leave the minus sign like it. And then what are the factors? Factors are when you multiply them to obtain a particular term. So over here if the term is 4x square, its factors would be 4, x and x. And in our second term which is minus 3xy, the factors are minus 3x and y. So this is how we get the terms and factors. This is how an expression is made up of. So expression is made up of terms and terms are made up of factors. And never ever forget the minus sign to write with the term. So a term is a product of its factors as we discussed. In the tree diagram, dotted lines, you can see the dotted lines over here. They are used for factors and the continuous lines are used for terms so that you can identify them easily. And 1 is not taken as a separate factor because we know 1 is a factor of every number, but we do not take it separately in this particular case. Right? Even if you take it, your marks won't be deducted. So let's move ahead and see 4x square minus 3xy. So just now we saw this expression has two terms. So as I told you that minus sign cannot be ignored over there. Right? You cannot ignore the minus sign. So in this term we do not write the second term as 3xy. What do we write it as? Minus 3xy. Yes? And factors containing variables are said to be algebraic factors. So any factor which is having variables, it is also called algebraic factors. Yes? So everybody is clear till now what all we have discussed? We have discussed that an expression can be made up of n number of terms and a term is made up of its factors, including the minus sign if it's there. Expression is made up of terms and terms are made up of its factors. And minus sign is never ever ignored when we are writing the terms of a particular expression out there. So let's move ahead and see what are coefficients now. Now coefficient can be a numerical factor also and it can be an algebraic factor also. So if you have an expression as 5xy, what's its numerical coefficient? It's 5. What is the numerical coefficient? It's 5. So 5 is the coefficient of xy over here and if we say what's the coefficient of 5y? It would be x. What's the coefficient of 5x? It would be y. So what is actually the coefficient? In that particular term, leave that particular factor and everything else would be the coefficient, including the sign as well. Here it's nothing, so it's plus, so we are ignoring. But if it would have been minus 3x, so the numerical coefficient of this particular term would be minus 3. And the important thing, coefficient is always seen in the terms, not in the complete expression. So let's see few examples for it. That coefficient is plus 1 in the first case. Why? There is no number written with no sign. So it's plus 1. But if it's minus xy, you cannot ignore the minus sign as I told you. So the coefficient would be minus 1. So 1 is a factor of every number, but we do not mention it, right? So if the coefficient of a term is plus 1, we just write 1, the plus sign can be omitted. Or if the coefficient is minus 1, it is indicated only by the minus sign. That's very important to keep in mind, the observation of minus sign in our terms, in our expression. So let's move ahead and see what are the coefficients of y in the following expression. So as they are saying only y. So in the expression you should identify the terms which are having y. So in my first part we have the term with y as minus 3y. So if I find out its coefficient, it would be only minus 3. Just forget about y. And have you seen? I have written the minus sign. It's very important. What's the coefficient of y in this particular expression? It's just z. So we do not write 8 plus z. Coefficients are always seen in the terms. So always identify the term having that particular factor and then find out its coefficient, keeping the sign in mind of that particular term. So this is how we find our answers, the coefficients for this particular question. Got it? And this is how you present your answer. So let's move ahead and see what are like and unlike terms. So like terms are which have the same algebraic factors. Like over here you can see xy and xy. So in this particular case minus sign doesn't matter because we are talking about algebraic factors and minus sign is taken with the numerical factors. But then what are unlike terms? Which have different algebraic factors. Now you all might say, ma'am, how come they have different algebraic factors? It is also having x, it is also having x. But the difference over here is this is x square. So x square means x into x. So its factors are not only x, it's x into x. But in this particular term, it's just x. Right? So that is how you get your like and unlike terms. This is how we differentiate them. So let's have few more examples for it. So here we can have a term like minus 3xy and 5xy. Yes, they are like terms, right? But if I write 6ab and 5a, they are unlike terms. Even though they have a as the common algebraic factor, but the second term does not have the second algebraic factor which is there in the first one, that is b. It's not there. So therefore they are unlike terms. Got it everyone? So you have to check, even if the factors are same, algebraic factors are same, they should be having the same quantity of it. Like x square is having 2x, but if you talk about only x, it's just have 1x in it. So let's solve a particular question over here where we are going to group the different like terms. So having the same algebraic factors. So if we start with 12x, it has 1x in it, right? So minus 25x and also x. So there are only 3 terms which are having x. Now let's see 12, which is a constant. Then minus 25 is also a constant. 1 is a constant. So constant are also kind of like terms, right? Because they don't have any algebraic factor. And also then we have minus 25y, 12y and y. So these are another kind of like terms in this particular question where the algebraic factor is y, right? So this is how we identify them in the question, and then you will group them like this. These are different groups of like terms in one particular question. The first one having the variable x, the second one having the variable y, and the third one is the constant ones. Got it, everybody? So let's move ahead and see what all we had done in today's session. What all we need to summarize. So we had talked about terms of an expression, which includes factors and its coefficient, and then we had talked about what are the different like and unlike terms. How do we differentiate them, right? So do not forget minus sign while writing the factors, and do not forget to check the algebraic factors while differentiating the like and unlike terms. So I hope everybody has understood what all we had covered in today's session. So do practice before we meet next with another interesting topic from this particular chapter. Till then, spark your curiosity. Bye-bye.